Well, hello everyone. Welcome to, excuse me, Bill. Welcome to Clear Lake Center in Lower Lake. This is our talk today. And we are very, very happy to have Reverend Bob Brach speaking today, zooming all the way from Sacramento, right? And he is going to give us our opening prayer. Reverend Bob.
Thank you, Barbara. Wow. Well, let's come together in prayer like any good unity event, acknowledging the presence of spirit. So I invite you to just gently close your eyes, take a nice deep breath of air in as we inspire spirit, letting that spirit in the world connect with that spirit within us. And we open our minds and our hearts to this wonderful little meeting that we get together and share with one another on what is up in our unity walk. And we know that spirit is here, and we are here by divine appointment. It is not an accident we are here, or it's not an accident you're tuning in and listening to the recorded message as it goes out onto the cyberspace. And we're grateful for every person that has a hand in bringing this unity Lower Lake together and sending this unity message out into the world. And with a grateful and thankful heart, all God's children said, thank you, God. Together, thank you, God. So it is. Amen.
And so it is. Thank you, Reverend Bob. And now Bill is going to sing Surely the Presence and the Lord's Prayer. Thank you, Bill.
What happened to the introductory song? I'm all ready to do a song. I can do Shirley if you want.
Oh, here we go. Check in, ring bell. Bill sings a joy song, and then we have a prayer. So okay, here we go. I think we should go ahead with Surely the Presence and whatever, and then we'll have a joy song, and then we'll do da-da-da, and then we'll have some more music. How does that sound?
Okay.
All right.
Ready for
We'll
that
continue
here.
from the prayers. Yeah.
Here
Okay.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel his mighty power and his grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the light is in this place. I can feel her mighty power and her grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the light is in this place. And the Lord's Prayer. Good morning, Larry. Let's see. That didn't sound quite right. Try that. Our Father and Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from error. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Sure.
And now, will you please sing a joy song for us? Thank you.
Happy to. Since the talk has something to do with communication today, I thought I'd sing this song about when I'm a lot older than I am now. When I am older, I might not remember, I might get confused, and I might lose my temper. There may be times when I don't know your name, because it's been trapped, locked away in my brain. And though it will hurt to think I could forget you, offer me a smile, hold my hand if I'll let you, and talk of adventures we had long ago. Show me the photos of people I know. Play music we've danced to, and songs we have sung. Read me books I read when I was just young. 'Cause your voice and your words might just be the key that opens the door that unlocks it for me. And maybe the music will spark tiny embers of memories dormant, and I will remember your name and your face, and the words to our song, the times and the places to which I belong. And it might last moments or minutes or more, as the fire sheds light through the crack in the door. But when the door closes and gone are the flames, when you are once more a stranger again, just know you'll have stirred something deep down inside, something familiar that I recognize, something that's real, that's not stored in my head, but right at the core of my heart space instead. Something that's stirred by your smiles and your stories, the touch of your hand and the songs you sing for me. And though I'll have no words to tell you, just trust that deep down inside I'll remember I'm loved.
Okay, well, you did have me chuckling there, Bill. I was
Made it through that one.
Oh, dear. Anyway, thank you, Bill. You're always terrific. Okay, so now I'm going to read the invocation affirmation. Now, remember, this is who we are. There is only one presence and one power active in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. Then there is only one presence and one power active in Unity Clear Lake Center, God, the good, omnipotent. And finally, there is only one presence and one power active in our world, God, the good, omnipotent. And the 5 basic ideas of unity is really the foundation of unity. The first one, God is absolute good, everywhere present. Then human beings have a spark of divine spirit within them, the Christ consciousness within. Therefore, they are inherently good. Number 3, human beings create their experience by the activity of their thinking. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. And then finally, number 4, prayer is the process that affirms our connection with God mind and brings forth wisdom, healing, and everything good. And finally, knowing and understanding universal laws, also called truth, are not enough. A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. And now, Bill would like to bless us with some more music. Yay, Bill.
Okay, here we go. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. 'Cause a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision that was was planted in my brain still remain within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the golden damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never shared. No one dared disturb the sound of silence. Fools that I do not know, silence like a cancer grows. Hear the words that I might teach you, take my arms that I might reach you, but my words like silent raindrops fell and echo in the wells of silence. And then the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made, and the sign flashed out its warning in the words that it was for me. And the sign said the word of the prophets are written on the subway wall, tenement hall, and whispered in the sounds of silence.
Wow, Bill, that's one of my favorite songs from long ago. I love it. And I love the way you sing it. You're really amazing and wonderful. Oh my gosh, we're so fortunate. Well, okay. And now I would like to read the daily word for today. I think it fits in very well. On this Sunday, October the 12th, all people are worthy as children of God. It's about being worthy. It can be easy to look at others and see differences, the things that tend to keep us separate. I may even make judgments about their worthiness, but each person is so much more than their appearance, habits, and histories. Today, I commit to treating others as I would want them to treat me, as the divine beings they are. I will look beyond appearances, put aside any judgments, and open my heart to others. I will treat all others as individualizations of the divine and beloved members of the human family. As I do this, I feel differences and separations fall away. I behold our similarities and feel a new kind of kinship, one born of respect and acceptance. All people are one in God, and each is worthy of inclusion and belonging. And from Romans 8:16, it is that very spirit bearing witness with our spirit that we are children of God. Worthy. All people are worthy as children of God. And I think this leads right into Reverend Bob's talk today on communication, compassionate communication. Thank you, Reverend Bob.
Well, thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you, Bill. I just amazing how spirit works in and through the stuff. You know, the title of my talk is, well, shut my mouth or not. Well, shut my mouth or not. And your choice of that song, the sound of silence, there are times when we should be silent, and there are times when we should be speaking up. Today, we're going to be looking at this idea of communication. We're going to be looking at the Buddhist concept of right speech from one of my teachers from ministerial school, Reverend Robert Brummett's book, Living Originally, Reverend Robert Brummett. And we'll look at ideas of communicating with others and with ourselves. And we're going to take a look at a story about our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, one of the things that she did in her growing up. Well, the title of this talk, well, Shut My Mouth or Not. As I was putting this talk together, I remember a words of wisdom that my mom gave me, Lillian Brach. And I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and I can still kind of picture sitting in our kitchen in the back of our apartment up in the west side of Chicago. And my mom saying, Bobby, sometimes it's better to keep your mouth shut and let people think you're a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. Sometimes it's better to keep your mouth shut and let people think you're a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Now, I cannot recall what precipitated these words of wisdom that come from my mom. And I was in my teens at that time. Either there's something I did, or maybe she was just passing on stuff that she had learned in her life. And hey, Bobby, there are times you need to shut up. Wow. Sometimes mom's advice doesn't bring about the desired result that they were intended. Take the story of Mrs. Monroe. Mrs. Monroe lived in Darlington, Maryland. She was a mother of 8 kids. And she had just come home from shopping. She's bringing the bags in, setting them down in the kitchen. And she noticed that 5 of her brood were in the living room, sitting around in a circle. And they were exceptionally quiet, which was unusual. So she decided to check this out. So she goes in, and there's her 5 kids all sitting around in the living room floor in a circle. And in the center of the circle was 5 of the cutest skunks that you could ever see. Of course, Mrs. Monroe panicked and yelled, "Kids, run, run!" Well, it so scared the kids, each one of them grabbed a skunk and took off in 5 different directions. Well, this panicked her even more. So she began to shout and louder, even more. Well, this really scared the kids, and each one of the kids gave their skunk a big squeeze. Later on, Mrs. Monroe was quoted as saying, "Skunks don't like to be squeezed. Skunks don't like to be squeezed." I can imagine her 5 kids and in the inside a skunk spraying us. Margie and I had a 5-acre horse ranch in Modesto before we went to ministerial school. And I had a golden retriever dog who decided to get in touch with a skunk that was in her back pasture. And boy, lots of tomato juice, lots of doggy shampoo before we could finally let her into the house and say, "Okay, Duchess, you're not stinking anymore." So what a thing to deal with. Well, let's talk about this concept of right speech. Right speech. It's in the Buddhist tradition, and Siddhartha Gautama, who we know as the Buddha, he left his palace, his wife and kids, and went off in search of enlightenment. And he traveled around the country and tried various practices to get enlightenment. And he finally sat under the Bodhi tree, vowing to not leave until he had this connection with enlightenment. And in this last session, he came up with 4 noble truths. And the 4 noble truths of Buddhism: there is suffering in the world. There is a cause of suffering. There is a way out of this suffering. And the way out is the 8-fold path. And right speech is one of the 8-fold path. And in Pali, the language that the Buddhist teaching stuff are written down, not the language that the Buddha spoke. His disciples wrote these things down hundreds of years after him, and it was written in Pali, P-A-L-I. And the word for right speech in Pali is Summa Vaka, or I'm sorry, Sama Vaka, Sama Vaka. And Sama in Pali means complete or perfect. And vaka means words or speech, perfect words or speech. One of the leaders of a Zen group had also talked about this and said, right speech means using communication as a way to further develop our understanding of ourselves and others, and as a way to develop insight. So not only communication with ourselves and others, but to develop insight. And in the Theravada Buddhist tradition, their meditation practice is called insight meditation. Right speech has actually 4 parts to it. The first is abstain from false speech. Don't tell lies or deceive. Abstain from false speech. Don't tell lies or deceive. Second, do not slander others or speak in a way which causes disharmony or enmity. Third, abstain from rude, impolite, or abusive language. And finally, do not indulge in idle talk or gossip. And it's interesting, one of the other meditation teachers that I looked at said, if your speech is not helpful or beneficial, some teachers say it's better to keep silent. Wow. Same thing my mom said years ago, and she wasn't Buddhist. Robert Brummett, whose book, Living Originally, I got some of these ideas from, said right speech means applying intention, not censorship to our looking at why we're saying something, not just censoring it or cutting out things that we don't want in there. And, right speech is, it was hard in the Buddhist time, it's hard all the way up through the world. And in our modern 21st century, it's even harder with the media, the internet. And Patricia was talking before the service about cutting back on the electronic media. In normal communication, nonverbal communication varies between 60 and 90%. That's the gestures we make. And only 7% is based on the words that we say. So people are interpreting our face, the tone we use, the loudness or softness of our voice, the words we emphasize to get it. But in electronic communication, all we have is words. On our smartphone, just words. On our internet, emails, all we have is just words. Of course, we can put an emoticon and put an emoji thing on there and trying to get it, or you type all caps, which means you're shouting. So anyway, so it's hard to do. And the other thing is these smartphones. Margie and I got these many years, about 16 years ago. She had gotten a job at the Association of Unity Churches, and she needed to check her email. So we both went and got these smartphones. I had a little flip phone before that, little dinosaur thing. But on these smartphones, I've gotten so used to having this. I leave the house and I don't have it. I go, oh, I got to go to my phone. And then I think, well, what did I do before I had the phone? I had to wait and make a phone call later. Some of the statistics I found is some people are checking, the average person checks these smartphones 2,000 times a day. That's a lot. Some people are even up on 5,000 times a day. And I think some of it is generational. When I was in Missouri, I'd finished ministerial school, and I was looking to get in a graduate program at UMKC, University of Missouri, Kansas City. And I was taking graduate level courses. And when I would show up for one of these graduate level courses, there'd be maybe 8, 10, maybe 12 people, probably all close to my age or better. And we'd be all sitting around waiting for the teacher to show up. And we'd be talking to one another. Hey, where do you live? And whatever, what are you doing? Hey, why are you taking this program? Whatever. Some of the classes I was taking, it was a combination of graduate and undergraduate. So I'd show up there, and in those classes, there are probably about 35 people or so sitting around. There'd be a few sprinkling graduate students like myself, but the rest were undergrads. And to a person, they're all sitting around at their desk with their little smartphone. They're not talking to one another. And sometimes I'd say something to these people, and they go, what are you doing talking to me? Oh my God. They get focused on that. I remember one of Margie's classmates, we went out to dinner and they were 30 something and we're sitting at the restaurant and he's sitting across from me looking at his phone. I'm going, I want to reach over and grab that phone and say, hey, now put that down, talk to me. So, we don't realize this until we get stuck someplace where there is no service. A couple of years ago, Margie and I and her mom went up to an artist retreat out in Gray Eagle. And it was out in the boonies, in this little wooded area. No internet, no cell phone coverage. So when we had our meals together, we had to talk with one another. Or if we're sitting around the rest area, so we had to engage in dialogue. Wow. In Robert's book, he talks about 3 conditions about our communication. First of all, is it true? Is it true? And don't present anything we know as false or questionable. When I am given a talk on Sunday, if I'm using a story or an anecdote or whatever, I make sure I can find the source where I got it and I have it in my notes. Or if somebody can say, hey, Reverend Bob, where'd you get this? And I can go back and get it, quote your source. When I was in the military, my last assignment was a joint interagency task force. And the admiral that was in charge, Coast Guard admiral, thank goodness, his words were, make sure you vet your sources. Vet your sources, meaning verify your sources when you're looking at this intelligence that's brought in. Make sure it's right. And, if we're going to say something that's not true, what's our motive for it? Are we trying to avoid some feelings? Are we angry? And we can also look at it as an opportunity to look at our relationships. Is it a safe relationship? Do you think we're responsible for somebody else's feelings? Is it honest or is it some facade? Is there part of something in me that I don't want to embrace? True. Is it true? Second thing, is it kind? Is it kind? Before communication, ask ourselves, is it kind? It's not the same as being polite or nice or politically correct or flattery. It begins with an appreciation of genuine caring. And a good question to ask ourselves, can I speak the truth and be kind? Can I speak the truth and be kind? We can do this as we're aware of our intention. Like Robert Brummett had said in his book, right speech means applying intention, not censorship. And lastly, the third point, is it necessary? Do I really need to speak up? And is it my job to speak up and do this stuff? Is it necessary to speak at all? And I was thinking of Bill's song, Listen to the Sound of Silence. So what is our intention? Is it authentic sharing? Is it concern for another's well-being? Or are we attempting to impress somebody, to defend ourselves, justify ourselves? Are we attached to a particular outcome and needed to sway the thing that way? Are we angry? Are we fearful? So 3 points. When I was in ministerial school, one of the classes that we had to take called Nonviolent Communication. And it was based on Marshall Rosenberg's book, Compassionate Communication. And, we had this class and a group of students and I'm not sure who set it up, but a group of students, we decided to get together on noontime once a week and have our lunches together and talk about, compassionate communication and how is it showing up in our lives. And in compassionate communication, we get to look about feelings, wants, and needs. And feelings, most guys, we have 4 feelings: mad, bad, sad, or glad. Mad, bad, sad, or glad. But, through this class, and this workshop that we did together, there's a whole raft of feelings that we can have involved of. And the other thing that I came to the forefront is wants and needs. There's some things I was driving home thinking about what I wanted. And I thought, well, do I need that? Or is that filling some need? So just because we want something doesn't mean I necessarily need it in my life. Our co-author, Myrtle Fillmore, in the story by James Dillett Freeman, Story of Unity, tells a story about Myrtle Fillmore. Charles and Myrtle were living on Wabash Avenue in Kansas City. And Myrtle, and Charles had gone to this lecture by Dr. E.B. Weeks, and Myrtle heard these life-changing words, you are a child of God. You do not inherit sickness. I got to move up so I'm not going in and out. She walks out of that lecture a changed gal. Charles walks out and goes, hey, pretty okay talk, huh, Myrtle? Well, it changed her life. And she had been told that she was sickly and she had to be carefully kept. So she began praising her body. And over a period of 2 years, she healed her body of several different maladies. Well, her neighbors around the area noticed Myrtle Fillmore being healthful. And one of them was a big Irishman who lived across the street. His name was Caskey. And Caskey walked with crutches. And he came over and talked to Myrtle saying, hey, I see that you've healed yourself some and you help me. And Myrtle said, yeah. So she'd been sharing her method of praising her body. She gave him affirmations for him to say and use, but he was a stubborn Irishman and he really couldn't change his thinking. And each time she had finished a little lesson, she'd say, all right, Cassie, get up and walk. And he said, no. Finally, one day, Myrtle says, come on, get up and walk. And he stood up from his chair, laid his crutches down, and walked across the room. So several years later, Lowell Fillmore is driving down some street in Kansas City, Missouri, and an express wagon drives up. This guy jumps down and says, hey, aren't you Lowell Fillmore? He says, yes, I am. He says, well, I'm Caskey. You used to live across the street from me. Your mom healed me some years ago. So it was a permanent healing that she had done. So Myrtle Fillmore. There's a story in one of her books about Myrtle that I used to point out, and I can't for the life of me get the exact page, but it's one of Myrtle Fillmore's books. And, she talks about giving all this stuff from God and whatever. And her final words are, get at it, get at it. Little Myrtle Fillmore, we picture her usually with the right hair thing, but remember, she was a fiery, red-headed schoolmarm in Texas, down on the border town. So she was a toughie out there. Get at it. Wow. So Myrtle was true. She was kind. And it was necessary for her communication. She shared what she needed to do until it got to the thing. And she was kind of her get at it attitude. And he finally got up and did it. Good old Caskey. There's also different levels of listening. And Thich Nhat Hanh, a Buddhist teacher, says, deep listening is the foundation of right speech. Deep listening is the foundation of right speech. In Brummett's book, he talks about 4 levels of listening. The first one is politicians and debates. That's the lowest level. People are applying for political office or they're in a debate. They hear the words of the other person, but they're so focused on and preoccupied on their own thoughts and their own judgments and how they're going to respond to it. So that's the lowest level of listening. The next is what's kind of normal for our culture. We're open to what the speaker said, and we may enjoy what they're saying. But we're willing to keep our heart open, but we're focused up in our head about what we're going to be saying afterwards. And, we're interested in true dialogue, but, we still have the little holdback. And therapy, the third level. Therapy, spiritual direction, life coaching. If you've taken any of those, that's the third level of listening, where we're willing to listen to open to another person. When I was in ministerial school, they encouraged us to seek an outside counselor. So both Margie and I did that. And I found this guy from Overland Park, Kansas, Jeff, and he was a counselor. And, I would be talking about things that were going on in ministerial school, and he'd be saying, well, something similar happened to me when I was going through my psychiatric training. And saying, that's not really too helpful. Well, here's some tips on it. And the other thing that we had, the school decided they would assign a unity minister to us and do like spiritual counseling. Well, I had this gal who was one of our ministers at Overland Park, a real cutie too. And we would get together for a half an hour once a week, and she would be totally present with me. And, if you've never had somebody be totally present with you, it's kind of unnerving. Oh my God, what do I do? But, her physical presence and her spiritual presence was with her and being fully present with me. And then the highest level, the Buddhists called it beginner's mind, beginner's mind. It's like our mind opens up to each experience like it's the very first time. And I had an interesting experience yesterday. Margie and I went to the B Street Theater in downtown Sacramento to a play called The Art of War. These two neighbors are fighting over this koi pond. But, I had never been to this theater before at the B Street side of it. And we took they'd have limited parking. So we took a lift down there and we got to ride in a Tesla pickup truck, one of those bulletproof ones, and trying to figure out how to open the doors. That was something. So that was a whole new experience. And then, we looked at the art up on the second floor. So I was thinking, well, this is all new. It's all fresh. So I can really relate to beginner's mind. We're beginning to go. And we had won these plays. She had put some place we were in, we put our name in, and we won this. So we have 7 plays that we can go to each month or once a month. And that's kind of new too. Going to plays and, sitting in these small theaters and seeing the actors right out in front. And, it's not like a movie, because if you don't hear it, you can say, oh, I'm back to stuff and listen. It's a one-time event, and you have to be fully present so you can catch all the nuances of it. Because once it's done and said, it's gone. There's no replay. They can't take video. They don't take videos of it. But yeah, beginner's mind, being present, it's like everything's a new event. There's a story about a Zen master and a university professor that went to visit him in his cave. And he went up there, and the university professor was talking incessantly about Zen and all this stuff. And the Zen master started to pour tea in his cup. So he kept pouring tea, and he kept pouring and pouring, and filled the cup up, filled over into the saucer, spilled over into the tray. And the professor couldn't contain himself no more. He says, hey, what are you doing? The cup is full. And the Zen master says, the cup is like you. Before I can fill you up, you need to empty your cup. He was so full of himself about what he thought about Buddhism, he didn't want to listen to the Zen master. So we need to empty our cup at times if we're going in for a new experience. And love. In my yoga class, I always close up my class having people focus on their heart center, anahata, and their heart chakra, and then send that energy up through their shoulders, out through their arms and fingertips, out to the world. And I have them close their fingers, thumb and index finger together. This is a mudra. And I see that energy looping around through our index finger, coming back to ourselves. And remind people that when we're sending love out to the world, we're also sending to ourselves, because we are connected. We are connected. Robert Brummett in his book talks about love is not directional. It flows inward and outward. So that kind of ties in with the stuff that I was teaching my yoga students.
That's why there's a shadow.
And, words are not only the ones we speak, but also the ones that we hear. There's a story about a lady taking a taxi cab, probably in New York, and the taxi cab driver was listening to one of these talk shows. The boy was really into it. He's slamming on the dashboard and the steering wheel and having all this hate speech coming out and agreeing with it. And she's sitting in the back. And she's saying, oh my God. And she was so glad when the taxi ride was over, so stuff that we're hearing can actually poison us as well as feed us. Margie has an interesting Chinese proverb she likes to share. We can't prevent the birds from flying over our head, but we can prevent them from making a nest in our hair. We can't prevent the birds from flying over our head, but we can prevent them from making a nest in our head. So where do we get our words from? Wow. Well, I teach Bible for the Urban Ministerial School. And one of the things that came up from the gospel, the writer of the Gospel of Matthew had written words about Jesus, telling his disciples, saying, I'm sending you out like sheep into the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. And he said, don't worry about what you're going to say if people are questioning you. And his last line, he says, for it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. It's not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. So we have that God source as the source of our words. And we also have to remember there's some guidance that's out there floating around too. Well, yeah, okay. One of the other things that out there is, one of my shortest and most effective prayers is help, help, HELP. And it's a nice acronym. Help, hello, eternal, living presence, HELP, help, help. And Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, in one of his writings had written this: I am a firm believer in both guidance and prayer, but I'm fully aware and humble enough, I hope, to see that there is nothing infallible about my guidance. The minute I figure I've got a perfectly clear pipeline to God, I become egotistical enough to get into real trouble. Nobody can cause more needless grief than a power driver who thinks he's got it from God. So, you be aware of our guidance that's coming up there. If we're going into prayer and meditation and the guidance is saying, Bob, sell everything you got and move to Bora Bora. I might call a spiritual friend and say, hey, Spirit wants me to sell everything and move to Bora Bora. And they probably say, well, Bobby, why don't you rethink that? Well, let's look at what we were talking about today. We started out whether you should speak or not. Do we listen to the sounds of silence? And my mom's advice: it's better to keep your mouth shut and let people think you're a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. We looked at the idea of compassionate communications and how it deals with speaking with others and looking at ourselves. And we looked at the right speech concept from the Buddhist tradition and the different levels of listening. And finally, we looked at that aspect of love and having spirit moving in and through us, moving out into the world. And a cautionary thing about if we get too caught up in we're right, we got it from God. So anyway, namaste, dear ones. Let's move into a period of meditative reflection. So I invite you to sit comfortably on your chair. Let your feet be flat on the floor. Feel the pressure of your feet on the floor, the pressure of your body on whatever chair you're sitting upon. And if it serves you, you can close your eyes or let your gaze be softly forward and take in this beautiful Monterey tree. It's on the coast of Santa Cruz that I have in the background, that beautiful tree in the Pacific Ocean. You just let your mind drift into that.
Cypress, I think.
And I invite you to follow your next breath down into your heart center. And let our attention rest on our heart center. Our heart, this wonderful physical organ that sends life-giving blood to every cell of our being and takes away the waste products, brings them back to our lungs, and we release them out into the atmosphere to be reused by other life processes, like any plants you may have in your home or trees out in your backyard. And if there's any part of our body temple that needs a healing hand of spirit, I invite you to see that part of your body temple and see it bathed in a blue-white light bubble of healing energy flowing from our heart, spirit-filled, life-filled blood into that part of our body temple, bathing it in a blue-white light bubble of healing spiritual energy, bringing about the right and perfect solution to the right and perfect part of our body in the right and perfect time. And if there's any person, place, thing, or event in our lives that need that healing hand of spirit, I invite you to see it very clearly in your mind's eye. And then see that person, that place, that thing, that event, bathed in a blue-white light bubble of healing spiritual energy, bringing about a right and perfect solution at the right and perfect time and in the right and perfect way. Now, Jesus of Nazareth, when asked by his disciples, saying, Lord, teach us how to pray, he told them to go within to the closet of their being, their heart center, to shut the door to the outside world. And your Father, which hears in secret, speaks in a small, still voice, but rewards openly. So we've gone to the closet of our being, our heart center, and we let our attention stay there. We mentally shut the door to the outside world. And we take a few moments and listen in the silence, listening for a small, still voice or images flashing across the screen of our mind or thoughts flitting through our mind as we gently rest in the silence for a few moments now. And now we bring our awareness back to our physical bodies. Feel the pressure of our feet on the floor, the pressure of our body against the chair. And perhaps in that time of quiet, we heard something like a small, still voice, or images flashing across the screen of our mind, or thoughts flitting through our mind, or perhaps not. But we have made ourselves open and available to Spirit. And perhaps later today, a book we're reading, a movie we're watching, an email from a friend, a phone call from a friend, something will catch our eyes, a billboard on the way home that we're driving will catch our eye and be a message from Spirit telling us, what are we being called to do as we move forward in this wonderful fall season of 2025? And 2 months, it will be a little less than 2 months, it'll be Christmas and the year will be over. So we are grateful and we're thankful for this time together. And we gently open our eyes and be fully present for the rest of our service. And I believe Bill has some music.
Well, first, Bill, yeah, I was going to say, what were you going to say, Bob? I was just say thank you to you. Oh my goodness. Yes. I'm so happy this is being recorded so that I can re-listen to a lot of it, if not all. Actually, I'll probably listen to it all again. Bill, before you sing the closing song, I have a few announcements. Okay. And so please stay and hear Bill singing the closing song, but let's go to our announcements. So here we go. I'd like to announce our future talks and let you know that next Saturday, the church will be open. Sarah Merlin is doing spiritual healing with acupressure. And so that will start at 1:00. And I'll forward the information to you again, about how you RSVP to her. But so Saturday, the church will be open 1:00. And then Sunday at church, Patricia will be doing her service, the metaphysical meaning of Halloween. Now that has got to be a great service. So she'll be giving that talk. And then, celebrate, whatever. Okay. And then please, it's our third Sunday. So bring something to share at our monthly potluck. So, the church will be open both Saturday and Sunday. And then we're going to have a Zoom service at the end of the month with Angelica on the 26th. Angelica Schaefer, In the Fast and Moving River is the title of her thing. And that with her chants and her instruments and her voice, it will be a wonderful service. That's at the end of the month on the 26th. So, of course, thank you. We really appreciate all of your donations, and just send them to Unity Spiritual Center, P.O. Box 755, 755 Lower Lake, California, 95457. That's P.O. Box 755 Lower Lake, California, 95457. And so now for Bill's closing song. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of the Lord. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tall and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never